TIFU by starting at the sun over 12 minutes.
As usual, this didn't happen today. This happened over 20 years ago and only recently am I noticing the impact. Don't stare at the sun, kids. When I was around 11 I was fascinated by science, I still am. In particular I loved astronomy and the sun is a pretty cool object. I had heard that Galileo had gone blind by looking at the sun through a telescope, so you should never look at the sun. My intellectually curious mind noticed that when the sun is high in the sky, around noon, it is nearly impossible to look at without squinting or closing your ones. It's very bright and the rays emanating from it prevent you from clearly seeing its edges as a circle. However, in the morning as the sun rises and soon after you can clearly see the sun as a circle and it doesn't appear brightly. It seems you can look at it without any issues.
As an 11-year-old, I decided I was going to stare at the sun after it rose for as long as I could and see what happens, you know. For science. I did just that. I stared at the sun after sun rays while waiting at the bus stop for school. It didn't seem to be impacting my eyes at all. I tried to avoid blinking as much as possible, but of course I blink a bit. I wound up looking at the sun for approximately 12 minutes. When I looked away there was a clear gray/black circle in the middle of my vision where the sun had once been. What's more, the colors of things seemed to move around as my eyes looked around. The sky had a reddish color and the concrete around me went from room to blue. It was almost like there was a filter differentiating where the sky had been and a different filter where the ground had been superimposed on my vision.
Those two filters and the black circle where the sun had been were fixed in my field of vision, and the color of everything I looked at was distorted by those filters. I can only describe it as what I imagine a drug trip to be like. Everything was funky colors because of the way their original colors were impacted by the filters in my vision. It's similar to the negative photo optical illusion. https://www.verywellmind.com/the negative photo illusion 4111086. As an adult, I have come to the conclusion that what I was seeing was the negative after image of the colors of the sky and ground that I looked at when I looked at the sun. This after image followed me around all day. What scared me is these filters, after image, and this black circle remained strongly in my vision past lunch.
Then over the course of the afternoon the filters and black circle gradually began to fade and the world returned to its normal colors by the time I got home. If I looked at something fast enough or darted my eyes I could still see the dark circle. Over the years I forgot about this experiment and recently went to an eye doctor a couple of years ago because my vision has gotten blurry over the years. They took a picture of my retina and pointed out that my macula, I believe that's the word, the point where light focuses on the retina, appears to have had high amounts of light exposure for someone my age. They noted it down and said if it gets worse there could be problems. I thought immediately to that long forgotten experiment where I stared down the sun and it won. In the last year or so I've noticed more and more the black spot where the sun once was. I will quickly dart my eyes and see it for a second. The brain and the eye are amazing in that brain will hide or fill in any gaps in the vision with information around the gap, similar to your blind spot. https://article/brain-adapts-in-a-blink/#text equals a %20 similar %20 phenomenon %20 called %20 %22 filling falls %20 inches %20 the %20 blind %20 spot. Try this out to see what I mean. https www.webmd.com/i-health/i-blind-spot-1. I've also noticed that in editing sentences I will miss a mistake. I assume because it was filled in by my brain making the sentence look correct. If I look at what I have written sideways out of the corner of my eye I catch mistakes easier. My personal belief is that my brain is filling in these missing details where the gap in my vision is. Where the black circle where sun was would be if my brain wasn't filling it in. It's interesting how one stupid experiment as a kid can come back and reveal the stupidity of it years later. Always wear sunglasses. Never look directly at the sun even if it seems like you can. You are doing damage to your eyes. Edit. Yes, I blame the spelling errors on the blind spot. I read through the post 3x before I posted it. Even the title. And there were many more issues before I posted it. None of them were intentional as some may believe. I will leave the spelling issues as an example of how the blind spot affects me. Besides seeing the black spot every once in a while, my atrociously written emails at work are the main day-to-day issue from my experiment. Edit. Don't blame the parents. They told me not to look at the sun. Or blame them, they encouraged my scientific curiosity.
Edit. Many of you have asked about my eye prescription. I'm nearsighted with astigmatism. Right eye, odd, minus 2.50 minus 0.50 by 107.0. Left eye, OS, minus 3.000 0.00 by 0. I don't have floaters or visual snow. I may have a mild form of night blindness. As the post implies, I have a small sun-sized blind spot in the middle of my vision.
Edit. I intended on this to be a throwaway account so people that know me didn't know my stupidity, but the karma has far exceeded my normal account. Edit. For people that are wondering, I love science and do work in a STEM field. TL Drive. I started at the sun for 12 minutes 20 years ago. Now I'm discovering the effects of that day. I'm not blind but have a small sun-sized blind spot in the middle of my vision that my brain has filled in. I don't notice it unless I move my eyes quickly. Don't look at the sun, kids. No matter how much it seems you can look at it without an issue. Always wear eye protection.
The sun is damaging your eyes even if you don't notice it or feel it.
I'm suddenly afraid of all the times I glanced at the sun growing up.
When I was a kid, I thought it would be a great idea to keep my eyes open while flashing one of those removable camera flashes. All I could see was purple. No shapes. Nothing. Nothing but purple. As if I were the dog in the "everything is fine" meme. I then decided to just take a nap. I woke up sometime later and everything was back to normal. Aside from my wife, this is the only other time I have ever spoken of this idiocy. Take care of your eyes, people. Not an expert, but I wonder if you killed that bit of your retina on experiment A. And the recovery was your brain learning a processing trick to ignore the hole in your vision and to change how you point your eyes such that the object of interest is outside of the small circle of retina damage. The sun used blindness, it's super effective. Solar retinopathy? Ouch. That's permanent and will forever be a mark in your macula. The brain is pretty good at working around small damage in the retina and blocking out very small blind spots, but once it's pointed out to you it'll be hard to unsee it. The sun always wins. Always. You. Ooh HHH cool star. Sun. You dare challenge me? The sun has destroyed your vision. Me and my brother had a sun-staring competition with each other when we were little. I think about it a lot and always hope that nothing too bad happened. This is the most educational TIFU I've read. Thank you for making your mistake educational. I enjoyed your links. I have solar retinopathy. It's literally one of the worst things. I had a huge black blind spot right in the middle of my vision. All lines were curved. I couldn't drive. I couldn't see anything. I had to learn to move through my house without being able to see. I couldn't watch TV or read. It's been years now. Like 5, and it's just started getting better. I went in to get some help. They told me there was nothing they could do, so I went another 3 years like that until I recently went to a new doc that said I for sure needed glasses and helped me out. I have to look out of the side of my eyes sometimes to see. It totally creeps people out. That used to be the only way I could see, so it's improved some. I can't turn lights on in the house during the day. I constantly have to ask people what things say. I almost didn't pass my driver license renewal even with glasses. I didn't stare at the sun, but I'm disabled with a connective tissue disorder, so my eyelids are super thin. I fell asleep outside for a very long time. It was so bad. For sure, do not look at the sun, folks. Growing up, I always admired that my grandpa could just stare straight ahead while driving with ease, despite the sun shining brightly into his eyes. I have very sensitive eyes, so even just being outside on a sunny day I tear up a lot. I was determined to be just like him, so I started making myself stare at the sun for as long as possible as practice. And that is how I became the only person in my family to need glasses. Here's how I imagine OP's experiment went. Remember trying to burn an ant under a magnifying glass? Your eyes are the ant in your experiment. You probably did have a slight flash burn on your retina and macula at the time. As we age, the eye, and the rest of the body, starts losing ability to compensate for our younger stupidity. There isn't much you can do to reverse the damage, but I highly recommend taking an eye vitamin to protect the health of your maculas into the future. Look into Preservision or Ocuvite, the AREDS formulations. Also, hope you followed your dreams and became a scientist. So you basically gave yourself macular degeneration. The blind spot will most likely increase as you age. I remember staring at the sun on the school bus one day. I DKY, but I did. Eventually, the sun looked like just a weird blue dot and didn't even hurt to look at anymore. I only did it for a few minutes and still to this day wonder if it's what caused my visual snow. I was equally moronic as a child. I was fascinated with lights and got hold of a laser. I was told not to look straight at it, so naturally I did, and aimed it directly into my left eye. It instantly hurt, so I stopped. But ever since I see slightly different color temperatures in each eye. Left is cooler, blue. Right is warmer, orange. I've been bricking it for a few years that it's going to catch up with me eventually, and this post has done nothing to alleviate those concerns. Your description of what it looked like is very good, but I imagine that at 11-year-old you would struggle to explain what is wrong to the school nurse in a very frustrating way. That disconnect between what's in your brain and what you can describe with words, that's so much more prominent as kids. This is of course assuming you spoke to any adults about what was going on, which it sounds like you didn't. Reminds me of a book I read called The K, where he sleeps in the sun and becomes blind. Suddenly I'm grateful for my intense light sensitivity, always ensuring I avoided sunlight like a vampire. If it has not been replaced by something else. There is a statue of a man in a film school in Brussels. This man proved that you can be blinded by the sun by staring at it for too long. It wasn't Galileo. I don't remember the name. Since I last saw it in 1970. It always seemed to me that staring at the sun past the initial pain of it would totally discouraging a person from continuing. But your story makes me realize that few parents, or none, warn their kids not to stare at the sun. It's bright enough to damage one's eyes, just as a hot stove is hot enough to burn one's skin. But it does not cause immediate overwhelming pain such as one gets from touching a hot stove. A person with an experimental bent, or a person whose will is stronger than his discomfort, could easily damage his eyes, as you have done. If I were you, I'd contact some different medical schools to see if they're interested in doing a case study on you. You have valuable first-hand experience with this and excellent communication skills. You could expand our knowledge of this kind of eye injury. They might also be able to tell you how to get the best use of your vision as it is. Meanwhile, I'm so sorry that your eyes are damaged. And I wish you well. 'Cause I am due for a miracle. I'm waiting for a sign. I'll stare straight into the sun. And I won't close my eyes. Till I understand or go blind.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.